Hey everybody, Foodservice Power Plants, FSPN. How's everybody doing tonight? I am your guest host, Shannon Solomon, and super excited to be here tonight. Jason is traveling and taking on the world right now in travels, so I get to be the guest host. And with me tonight, I have brought somebody really special to me. Been a friend of mine for about 12 years now. Been a mentor to me and somebody who I reach out to and look to for advice, for guidance. And, just on those days when you need a pick me up and a talk, he's always available and gets back to you and helps you be the best version of yourself. So I am going to first start out, but just by saying thank you for our supporters, the Zumba group and Crave Colorado. Thank you for being FSPN supporters. And then if you do want to support and believe in the mission of the Foodservice Power Plant, please go to FS Power Plant and go to the partners page. And please support Jason and the mission and myself in our mission. And I'm with K-12 Power Plant as well. So with that, let's go find Mr. West. Hey there. How are you this evening?
I'm great. It's been a beautiful day and glad to be hanging out here with you at the Foodservice Power Plant Network.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, Jeremy, thank you so much, first off, for joining me tonight and being my guest. I did a little intro and just how incredible you are and how you've been such an impact in my life. So if you don't mind, we'll just get started with some of the questions I have for you.
Yeah, thank you. And same to you, Shannon. Appreciate the presence you have in my life. And I learned as much from you as you'll ever learn from me. So appreciate you.
All right. So you are the Director of Partnerships and Membership Engagement at the Urban Food Alliance. Mm-hmm. Tell us about your career journey and what led you don't hesitate, Jeremy, because your career journey has been interesting and opportunistic, I would say. So take us through that journey and what's brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, it's probably not a traditional career path. As you know, I would say most people end up in K-12 nutrition world. It's not probably where they started out to go. And so I'm a little bit like that. But really my food service career began in healthcare. And so I was actually working as a nurse's aide in my small town hospital. I live in Springfield, Colorado, which is, yes, there is a Springfield, Colorado, first of all. And it's in the very extreme southeast corner of Colorado. So Oklahoma's 20 miles, Kansas is about 30 miles. So I'm a flatlander. But working once again, this is in my 20s, as a nurse's aide at the hospital. And the board of directors asked if I would like to go to culinary school when I brought them a bowl of popcorn one night to their board meeting. And so I did. I said, sure, I'll go. But, I knew I didn't want to be a nurse's aide the rest of my life. So I did. I went to Colorado Springs, came back, worked, cooked for a little bit, but really became a director. The person had been there retired. And so I stepped into that role for the next 5 years and then made the jump to school food. I had met someone when I was in culinary school that went to my church, and she had become a director herself. And so I just said, hey, I'm ready to look at something different. And she connected me with, at the time, Rick Hughes, who was in District 11 and still a mentor of mine. And the rest is history, I guess. I ended up there as an assistant director. 3 years later, got the opportunity to go to Greeley, Evans, District 6, north of Denver, and was there for almost 8 years. And then got to work in Jefferson County Public Schools as a director of operations for food nutrition services. And that's with Beth Wallace, who is our immediate past president for SNA. And then life changed again, right? And so I sold equipment for a little bit. That wasn't wildly successful for me. I think I'm not a very good salesman, as it turns out. But then made the move home, back to our hometown, and started consulting and briefly worked in healthcare again. And now with the Urban School Food Alliance, which is a great membership association of school districts that have 50,000 students or more, coast to coast. We have 18 members, and they just do incredible work, as do all of our our K-12 nutrition folks. So, it has been a lot of, sometimes I scratch my own head of what have I gotten myself into, but it's been good. It's every step has taught me something. I've had great people I've worked with at every organization, and that remains true today.
So for some of our food service power plant viewers that aren't necessarily familiar with the Urban School Food Alliance, USFA, can you just kind of touch base? I know I'm not a part of USFA because I'm not a big enough district, but can you share with us a little bit about, and I'm going to close my blinds because the thing's going, but a little bit about USFA and what that is and the conglomerate you guys are.
Yeah. USFA is, it's a membership association. So, just like other professional organizations, but it was formed in 2012, by a group of 6 directors from some of the nation's largest districts at the time. And they came together and said, look, there's got to be ways that we can share our best practices together, because there's some things that are really unique to those very large and urban school districts. How can we do procurement better? There's got to be better ways to do that. And how can we use our collective voice, because of our size, because of our buying power, to really advocate for better policy, better systems, better food, really, for K-12. And so these folks, how busy you are as a director, Shannon. Mm-hmm. So now you're a director and you have, 300,000 students and 1,000 schools. And yet these folks still stepped up to the plate as volunteers to start this organization. It's a 501c3, so we're a nonprofit. And really, that's what we exist for today, is to really have a place that these large urban districts can band together and really come up with things that not only benefit them as large districts, but really help benefit all of child nutrition. And, Shannon, your district is large too. But sometimes, even as large as you are, you may not get that place at the table necessarily with those that are making decisions. And so it's nice to have someone there, right? And so some of the USFA districts that really do have the ear of some of those people, they're using it in a really great way to help all districts of all sizes, and whether they're rural or urban, doesn't matter. A lot of the things that we do are the same, right? And so we want to do what's best for kids.
It's such a huge voice for child nutrition professionals.
Yeah. And that collective voice is really, and that's, they put that into their mission statement. And I'll just read it to you. Leveraging our collective voice to transform school meals. And that's what they want to do. And so they've done that in some ways. They've, they were the people that brought no antibiotic ever chicken to market, really. It didn't exist. It wasn't very strong commercially. And so they created a market for it. And now you can get that. Where there used to be just 1 or 2 products, now there's lots of products for K-12 and other segments too in retail. When they couldn't find a compostable tray that would work, they put together a specification and worked with manufacturers to develop a product that works. And that is, there were lots of them out there, but if you've looked at them like I did when I was a director, you couldn't afford them, right? They were 4, maybe 5 times higher. And so they worked with manufacturers to get that spec right, but to get it at a price point. And so that's the kind of big work that they like to do. And just having that association model is helpful to be able to move those initiatives forward. And so Dr. Wilson was the first employee. So they started in 2012. She was hired in 2019. So they did that work as volunteers and still doing their regular jobs. And then, so she was employee number 1. I was employee number 2 in 2020, about 10 minutes before the pandemic closed us all down. And then we also have Jill Kidd on our team, which Colorado people will know her. Other people will know her too. Jill Kidd's been in the business over 34 years and just an incredible voice at the national level too. And she's our director of procurement. And then we're looking for one more team member if you live in the Washington, D.C. area. So
very nice. Jeremy, and I will say that, the advocacy for free meals, universal meals for every student is something that USFA really, and Dr. Katie Wilson really advocates for as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So there's been an incredible amount of change in the restaurant industry and also in the K-12 arena in the last few years, and always really in restaurants. Is there a mindset that you have or that you've adopted to help you and your team handle change? And I know, positive growth and movement forward.
Yeah. Shannon, I think change, when I think back to leading teams and my own self, it's really about fear. Like, we don't want to mess up. We don't want to fail. And so I think it's better to just say instead, hey, we're going to change this and we're going to plan that we're going to mess up or we're going to miss the mark somewhere, but we're not going to scrap it all. When I was in Greeley and we had 80% of our food was highly processed on the menu and we wanted to go to more scratch-based, speed scratch cooking. That was a big change and people were nervous about it. And so that was something I told them, we're going to mess up. Just tell us that stuff from the front lines. We need to know it. And we're going to fix it, but we're not going to just say, well, that didn't work and we're done with this. This is the new way we're going to do business and we're going to move forward. And so I just think it's okay to have resets. We've done that a lot. If you've read any organizations when they're young, there's lots of that storming and, I don't remember the order, but storming, norming, forming, all that stuff. We've done that a lot at USFA. We've tried it and said, you know what? I think that didn't really work. Let's go back and try it a different way. And, that gives, the people that work for you, giving them that license, and not just to go and mess up on purpose, right? But to say, hey, you had the courage to try it. It didn't quite work out the way we had hoped. But what did you learn from it? And how can we improve it? And so that for me, that's just been something that I try and keep my mindset that way, that I'm going to give it my best shot, but I'm going to have those contingency plans that, this may not quite work out. And how am I going to reset that? And really just being open and honest with people. I feel like we're better at that nowadays than we used to be. I don't know if that's a COVID thing or whatever, but I feel like people are being a little more open and honest about how they're feeling and how this impacts them. And so I think just continuing to have that open dialogue helps.
Yeah, and Jason is watching, and so he's like, Jeremy, and, he says, I love that it won't be perfect, and you'll mess up along the way. That creates a freedom to try new things, and I think that's huge. And I love how you said the fear. Like, to me, it is hard. It is overcoming that fear of the unknown to try new things. And no, there's a strong chance you may or may not fail. And then how do you get there from there?
Shannon, I've been in so many times that it wasn't 50-50. It was probably like 60% I might fail, And, but at some point, for me, you just gotta move forward and adjust as you can. Now, not everybody's really I can freestyle that way, but some people don't roll that way. And I get that. And I always had good people around me that were more, I would say, disciplined in that and behind, everybody needs a Kara sample. If you don't know her, you should. I worked with her in 2 different districts as a dietitian, and she was my opposite, and so I would have ideas, she would have realities. And so together we, really did some incredible work, but it was really nice to have that balance. And so knowing as a leader, you may be more visionary. Who's your reality person that's saying, that's great, love it. Hey, we got to figure out these 5 things first. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have that too. Her name's Katie.
Yeah.
You have Kara, I have Katie. So
yeah.
So Jeremy, I'm gonna take you a little bit off the professional level.
Sure.
Tell me, Jeremy as a kid and food and passion, and what made you decide the service and the restaurant, culinary, K-12 arena?
Yeah. I will say I was a picky eater as a child and I packed my own lunch. So I'm just putting it out there. All right. So I had the Smurf lunch pail, then I had Dukes of Hazzard and some others. I was a picky eater. Obviously I've gotten over that. One of the things that happened when I was, if you could say there was a moment you kind of looked into your future, I had a family member in the hospital and we were down at the cafeteria and I was probably, 7, I was probably 8 or 9. And I can remember they had this great little conveyor belt thing that went behind this wall and magically took your tray somewhere. And so I was up as far as I could, looking down there to see what it was going. And somebody came out of the kitchen and said, do you want to come back and see that? And I did. And they took me back in that kitchen. And it was like, Willy Wonka to me, right? And, that's like, you don't know it at the time, but that was like a glimpse into your future, because healthcare was my first job. And then, but the day that they asked if I wanted to go to culinary school, that was the furthest thing on my mind. I had worked the night shift as a nurse's aide, and I saw those poor kitchen people dragging in at 4:15 in the morning. And I said, I would rather stay up all night long than have to get up at 4 a.m. to come in here and cook. Fast forward 2 years, I was that guy knocking on the door at 4:15. But you know what? I think, Shannon, what I've always liked is a job with a cause. And so whether that's healthcare, where you really are, especially in a small town where I've operated at, where these people, generations of these people, when people pass, you go to their funeral. You just knew everybody, and you got to be involved in their life at a really critical time to honor that life, because mine was primarily long-term care. And school nutrition gave me that same thing, right? I had 3 kids, now I have 5. And so as I stepped into child nutrition, again, there are kids that I knew the struggle we had as a young family, sometimes putting food on the table. And we did pretty good, but I knew that there were others that didn't. And so having that opportunity to really feed people, once I understood that, I knew I'd found my home in child nutrition, and just that opportunity to speak into students' lives and really help them, develop some habits that are going to last beyond just this school year. Really, it's their whole lifetime. And so I liked also the people I got to work with, that I got to invest in them, and we got to learn from each other and be creative together and figure things out. And so I always enjoyed I like being around people. So having these jobs where I work from home it's different for me, where all my people are on a box like this. It's taken a little bit of adjustment, but
kind of the Brady Bunch thing now, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Thankfully, everybody else was going through it at the same time I was starting it, so it was kind of the norm for all of us, right?
And Jason says, I've always liked having a job with a cause. That's incredible. That's awesome.
I mean, I think, I don't want it just to be about your 9 to 5 and getting your paycheck. To me, that's work. And I want, a career, a lifestyle, right? That's, hey, we did this, but we did this, we did so much bigger than that. So.
Well, and I know you're the guest, but I'm going to say, I spent 18 and a half years in restaurants before K-12. And I will tell you that just being in that, in the restaurant industry and the fast food, specifically restaurant industry, I found my cause in development and leadership and service to others, and customer service is a cause. And as we're in this world today, let's be real, not just in K-12, but in restaurants and in the service industry, customer service is a cause, and it's a gift, and it's an art that not everybody wants to do, but there's tons of service jobs out there. But I love service. I love serving people. Yeah.
And Shannon, that's so well said, that really any of these service jobs are jobs with a cause. And it is, because you're putting people ahead of you, right? Yeah. And sometimes their quirkiness and their crazy requests, whether this is a parent or a customer or whoever, you're just swallowing that thought and helping them have a good experience. And there seems, it feels like it's a dying art. And so having people that can speak into that and to still train that is so key.
Oh, it is such a thing. Jason's like, you're right, Shannon. Yeah, it is. And that's my passion, is I just want to teach service. Like today was our first soft, I guess, back to the first day. Tomorrow's full blown. Aurora's back full swing.
Sprint's on.
So yeah, lots of customer service calls today.
Oh yeah. Just
Internal
feed the
and
kids. That's what I
external.
used to say. I don't care for the next week. I don't care. Just feed the kids. We'll
Yep.
figure it out later.
Internal and external customers. You betcha. All right. So, for our industry friends working in schools and working in restaurants,
Yeah.
feeding students, what do we all need to know right now?
Well, I think, Shannon, I've thought a little bit about that. I think it's really just understanding what the current reality or the current landscape is for now.
Mm-hmm.
It could be different next week, right?
Sure.
It didn't used to really be that way as much. Like school food, if you think back, it was pretty, we had a kind of an ebb and flow. And as long as somebody ordered enough chicken, we were pretty good. We kind of knew what was going to happen and when, and we're pretty routine in what we did. But that's not the way it is anymore. And so even though we're all trying to get back to that, we may never get there. And so just, I think having grace for one another, it's okay to miss what was. I miss what was, right? Mm-hmm. But let's also take advantage of the opportunity we have ahead of us now to rethink. We've gotten to do some things that over the last 2-3 years that we never have done before, right? People, just the example of some people, not necessarily in food service industry because you kind of got to be there, but others that were places never let their employees work remotely. Now let them work kind of a hybrid thing, and just the impact that has had on some of those other industries. So what are the things that we can do now? Like, there's different ways that we could present food and let students kind of self-serve or other customer options. What are the technologies that have come out of the pandemic that allow us to really rethink how we do business, and in the absence of having enough staff, really still be able to offer a quality experience because we're relying on technologies or other ways to do things, or scaling back the menu a little bit, which honestly, not a bad thing, right? There's still enough choice.
Pivot.
Right, pivot.
We haven't heard that word in like 2 years.
Yeah. If you would look at, Shannon, go to any manufacturer of food.
Sure.
And go to a common item, whether it's a hamburger patty or a chicken patty. Look how many SKUs are on there. You will be amazed. There are, one group had like 60 SKUs for chicken. We don't need 60 SKUs for chicken, right? So for me, that's something good that's come maybe out of the pandemic, because we've been able to kind of scale back and say, hey, let's focus on the quality products that we need, and let's plan for them realistically, and let's commit to what we've said. And so I think that's, we got to look at the bright side of that.
So we have our friend on, Cheryl Lynn, and she wants to know, how did you transition from healthcare to child nutrition? I know you kind of touched base on that, knowing somebody, but go ahead and share that.
Yeah, well, and it's, I think what was helpful, Cheryl Lynn, was when I was coming to District 11, so that was my first district, that's in Colorado Springs, kind of the middle of it. They were wanting to, they were coming out of a management company into self-op, and so I was going to be their first assistant director that they had had in like 18 or 20 years. And they needed someone that had some, culinary background or menu experience, that understood kind of special diets were not as big back then, but they were starting to become a thing, I guess.
Big deal now.
Yeah, and look how they've exploded since then. So my skill set coming in, and I was a certified dietary manager, a CDM, which primarily work in long-term care. I had some of that, a little bit of clinical that they were looking for in that situation, but also management of people. And although it was just one kitchen with 20 staff, and I was going to a district that had about 50 schools and 300 staff, it was the ability to be able to lead people and to be able to scale that up. And really, when you think about it, I've worked on both ends of life. They kind of like the same kind of food, to tell you the truth. So I had that going for me, that I understood, how to take care of really technical situations, because I was charting, I was having to do diet plans for folks in the hospital, so having that technical background, but also that service, like putting out meals every day, and not, we had to make an entree 3 or 4 ways. It had to be the entree, it had to be pureed, it had to be ground, it had to be thickened, and so just being able to train people on that was a skill set that they were looking for. Plus I had experience with group purchasing because most healthcare accounts are under a group purchasing organization. And that was a model that they were looking for to the future. And so I had some background in that.
And I think a lot of it, Jeremy, is really to just transition on what skill sets you've learned and how to make them applicable to that transition into the new arena.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And that was something I did my first year was, hey, we have a kid that needs pureed diet. We don't know what to do. So I was able to say, order this product, give me a blender. I went out and trained all the kitchens that would need to know that. And so, that came in handy. And really looking ahead as food allergies have become more and more, not just in K-12, of course, but and special diet requests have really exploded across the industry. Having that knowledge of that's helpful.
Awesome. All right. Next question. I'm gonna go a little personal, Jer.
Okay. All right.
So what was a challenge in your life that you overcame, which really taught you what you're made of and who you are today?
Yeah. So Shannon, I think for me, it was always my education. So I got married at 18, 2 weeks after I graduated, just celebrated my 30 class year reunion by riding a float in a parade this last weekend, and also my 30th anniversary back in May. So I went straight from high school to college. My wife is a little older, and so she was, finishing up college. I was just starting, and so then she went to student teaching, and we moved home. And so I took night classes, but anyway, it took me till about age 26. I finally got my associates in food management, and then every job I would go to apply for after that, including going to school nutrition, they wanted a bachelor's or an RD behind your name. I didn't have that, right? And so, how I compensated a little bit for that was to get involved in association. So I was the president for the Dietary Manager Association in Colorado. I served on their national board. I did the same track in SNA, working on my state agency, doing some stuff on committees at the national level. And that really helped give me some of that leadership experience that I didn't have. And then finally, I got to go back to school. And so at age 44, I got my bachelor's. And then just this year at age 48, thanks to the support of USFA and my boss, was able to return and get my pandemic degree at age 48. So now I have my master's. And so that was something, that it took me a long time, Shannon, to get that. It took 30 years from high school to reach that. And I already had a very busy job. Like I said before, I have 5 kids and a wife, so that's busy. I do volunteering in my community, but we made it work. And so it meant that every weekend my family went and did stuff, and I came over here and wrote papers. But that's what it took. And that has, not that education is everything, but it has certainly helped me as I want to look at the level I'm in now and what's next. Having that education will be beneficial to that. And it's really taught me a lot about what my capacity is as a person. When you don't think you can fit that in and you've I can't face another 8-page paper, you can do it. And you just have to kind of take that as it comes. Sometimes you can look up and look far ahead and see the end of it. But sometimes there were weeks I just had to get through this.
Oh, yeah.
I could do. So that, Shannon, you were an adult learner like I was. So
yeah, and I think the biggest thing for me when I walked across that stage when I got my master's degree as well was I've been involved in teams my whole life and love working on teams and doing this, but this is something you have people who help you and support you, and like you said, like your family. But when you decide to go to school, it's you. And when I walked across that stage, it was something that it's changing. Like, I did this. Yeah.
Right. And it turned to something that I, was, kind of like I had to dance around because I didn't have it, to something that I can now say, hey, this is what I did. And so mine's an organizational leadership, which I have found to be applicable to about every area of my life, from family to church to jobs to community service organizations that I work with. So that's been helpful. And, I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to do that. And I encourage folks, go for it. You can do it. if I can go back at 44 and do completely online school, you can do it.
Yeah, mine was all in person. I could not do online. I needed it. I needed a professor to hold me accountable.
You can go to person. You can go in person if you'd like to. That's fine.
We have a Facebook user. I don't know who it is. They're saying hello, friends. Hello, whoever that is. All right. Next question. I love to read and be, like you said, being an adult learner, I've learned to really pick up a book for reading as well, for leisure reading as well as professional development. If you were to say the most impactful book you've ever read, mine is probably Gordon's Power of Positive Teams or The Power of Positive Leadership. Were a couple of mine. It's Kim Kilgore, Cherry Creek.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Your neighbor.
It's my sister school district. But yeah, so but what would be, if you were to tell our viewers, what's the most impactful book you've ever read and why?
Yeah. I think for me, Shannon, it was because of the time in my life, probably. I was new. I mean, I was at District 11 for all of like a week when we had this retreat with the leadership team, a newly formed leadership team. So I wasn't the only new person there. There were folks that had become area supervisors, which was a new role. And so we all got to go through like a 2 or 3 day experience of the 7 habits of highly effective people. And that was so at my, I was 32 at the time, I think. At that point in my life, I'd never heard these kind of concepts. I'd not been in a leadership team of that size and caliber before. And so I think that combination, and I still find myself today, saying things from that book and adopting that mindset of, one thing is seeking first to understand and then be understood. Right. And so that changed me to really step back and say, okay, Jeremy, obviously we always have a point to make, right? As people, we have our opinion and we're going to make it. But before we do that, what is it that the other person is trying to tell us? And even though they may not be articulating it well, maybe their demeanor isn't quite how we'd like for them to say it. It's, it's not eloquent, but what are they really saying to us? What can we take from that? And, so for me, I have to be real intentional about stopping my mind to say, okay, Jeremy, yeah, you got a thought about it, obviously, right? What are they saying to you? And so I still have to make myself do that. One thing I'm reading lately, and this was they gave me my team at USFA when I graduated, How Change Happens. So I've been,
Who's the author on that one?
Sorry, How Change Happens. It's right there.
Okay,
Leslie Crutchfield.
Okay.
Good stuff. I have, they gave it to me right after I graduated, and I just wasn't in the mood to read yet. So after all those papers, but I have been reading this on my last few plane trips, and it's really good. And so I'll let you know how it is, but I think it's a really good book.
That's cool.
So those two, aside from the Bible, have been pretty good books for me. And I've read more lately on just, what does it mean about what is equity and what is race, and just trying to educate myself with other viewpoints than my own experience. And so there's been several books that I have read lately that are about those topics that really are, some are real in your face, and that's all right. I think we need a little bit of that honesty, and this is how it sits. And so that's what's on my bookshelf right now, Shannon.
I love it. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of studying on diversity, equity, and more equity and inclusion, right? The diversity is kind of a check the box kind of a thing, but I'm more into the equity and inclusion part.
Yeah.
And been doing a lot of research and a couple books that have been referred to as well. And some TED Talks. So looking at some of those, there's one out there. I don't know if you've seen it, with the problem with a single view.
No, that sounds.
Jer. Yeah. Look that one up.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing a couple breakout sessions at a couple conferences coming up on diversity, equity, and inclusion. One with my daughter.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So that'd be fun. But so I love that. Equity and inclusion is a huge part of the world we live in today.
Yeah.
All right. So we surround ourselves, and I kind of know the answer to this question, but I know somebody that you work with, two people that you work with actually. But you surround yourself with an incredible group at the USFA as well. I've met some of those directors, but you surround yourself with people who make you better. And who are you learning from right now? And what are you learning? And what's kind of bringing you to where you're at today?
Yeah, I think, Shannon, one of the things that was different for me going to USFA is I'm not on the front lines anymore. And so, it was, as the pandemic unfolded, it was like trying to figure out, well, what are they dealing with? Because I'm not there. I'm not experiencing that. And that was a little tough at first because you just want to go out and help, right? So I try and stay connected to the front lines, so to speak. So, when I'm with people or around people that are in food service, aside from our members, we have monthly calls that we're talking through issues. And as the membership guy, I get to, hear some of their stories sometimes outside of that. But really just like, Shannon, you're a lifeline to me. You kind of tell me that this is a reality of what's happening out there. And that helps me as someone who wants to stay in and around child nutrition, stay current, and understand how I can support that, how I can support our operators. And so, I get to work with Dr. Katie Wilson. And so I have learned so much over the last few years from her, and just her experience working at, the Child Nutrition Institute, her 20 plus years, maybe 30 years as a director, and her work at USDA. And so, and she's open to teaching. That's what I appreciate. And so I learned from her. I've got, all of our members are awesome. I have learned a ton from them. And so it's great to connect with them, and whether it's in our committee work or at, on our calls, or they do presentations that I support sometimes. And so that's been helpful. I connected regionally. I stepped onto a board for a regional nonprofit called Ogallala Commons. So the Ogallala Aquifer is what provides water for about 8 states. And so they do work around local food and creating community and commonwealth within a community to bring it together, all the assets that are within a community. And so I've learned a lot from them.
That's awesome.
Going to their events and serving on their board about what it takes really in communities large and small to keep people connected to their food systems. And oh my goodness, I wish we'd have done better. I mean, the pandemic really revealed the fragility that we have in our nation's food system. And so
absolutely.
I
will. Yeah. And I mean, Dr. Katie Wilson is a vast experience, but I love how you joined a board. I mean, just to be around people that, what is that saying that Maya Angelou says? We don't know what we don't know.
Right.
Like you are, first of all, I'm not going to tell you, I reached out to Rick and invited him to food. So he's on here and he says, Rick Hughes is here. Hey guys. Yeah, that's your friend from a long time ago. But
still my friend today. I tell people all the time, I am so blessed to have my first gig in child nutrition with Rick Hughes, because he taught me what it could be. And so I owe my friend and mentor a lot.
Yeah. Game changer right there, Rick Hughes. All right. So I'm going to ask you this one.
Yeah.
How do you define success?
I think ultimately it's helping others succeed, Shannon. That's how I would define success. So, as a director, a lot of times you get the credit and you get the you get the heartache, right? For the work that happens in your department. And so I think it's really, how do we help others succeed? What are we doing? What's the evidence of that? Do we see people going on to get their education, or getting promoted in their work, or maybe going on to be a director somewhere else, or figuring out that maybe food service isn't for them, and they go somewhere and they're successful? I think over the last 3 years, what I've really learned is that success is fluid. Some days I just need my success to be to get through this day and to get through these 10 things. And that is success. And I feel accomplished. And I'm so happy. I'll walk out of the office. I'm like, look at this list I got done today. And I feel successful. And sometimes, it's more macro. It's like project based, and we're looking forward to getting this school completed or this big project off the ground, or in my case, getting that report to a funder or getting the, the budget done for the next year. And so some of those are success, but, I think some people I've never based it on money, I guess, because, we're in food service, so it's not like we're the highest paid people, right? And so but the money will come, is what I've always found, that if you are on the right path and you're really digging in, that those opportunities come. And usually those opportunities come with advancement and position and money if you need that too. So
sure, we all got to pay our bills, but yeah.
That's right, we do.
Yeah.
And so I think it's some people have these life goals that they're trying to hit. That's great if that works for you. But just, let yourself off the hook sometimes. It's just, it's August. So you just get through August right now. If you're in K-12, you better consider yourself successful. That's all I'm saying, because Amen. It's a lot.
It is. Sure. All right. So finish this sentence for me.
All right.
I am happiest when?
I think I'm happiest when I'm with people. I like to shop, which is kind of quirky, I know. But
I did learn that about you. Oh. I don't know, a couple years before COVID, when you were like, let's stop at this antique store. And I was like, oh my God, no.
You're like, let's not. My wife, bless her heart, she just sits in the car and lets me wander. I call it treasure hunting or freestyling. I'm just out there on the hunt. But, I think, Shannon, you might relate to this because, I'm busy, but you're really busy.
Everybody's busy.
Having a day when there's nothing on the calendar and there's no commitments, that is a great day in my book. I'm happy on that day and not that I don't love my work and all that other stuff, but sometimes it's just nice to not have any commitments. You don't have to fix your hair if you don't want to. But I like to be with people. I do like going to conferences and seeing my food service people, my food service family. And I like hanging out with my family. Sometimes happiness is solving crime on Netflix. I'm all about a good crime story. So I'm pretty simple in that way. Nice. Yeah. Everybody has a Jeremy shopping story, I'm sure, if they've hung out with me.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, I just never, when you first said that, I was like, wow, he's really into antiques.
Well, I usually I don't buy a lot of them, but I like the look.
Yeah, it's impressive. I just never would have. Yeah, the things you learn. What's the proudest moment in your professional and maybe your personal life? I mean, I know you said, getting your bachelor's and getting your master's, personally, but what are some of your proudest moments?
I think I'm proud that work is still going on, that maybe I helped start. I was part of the beginning of it. Some of it may have been my idea, some of it may not have been, and it's still going. And so I can look back when I was in long-term care and I become a director. It was called culture change. That was a big term everybody was using. And it was basically, instead of having this tray line where you can have option A or B, we're going to put like a restaurant style menu in front of you. And you don't have to come and eat breakfast at 5 a.m. if you don't want to. And guess what? Nobody wants to come eat breakfast at 5 a.m. So we're just going to have open dining hours. You come eat when you want to. You know why? Because you're 80 years old and you should get to do that. And so I got to be in long-term care at a time that there was culture change. And I stopped a tray line that had been going for 30 years and put menus in their hands. And when I came back 13 and a half years later, after I'd left that position, and I briefly was in that position for another 6 months, they were still doing it. To me, that's a proud moment. When I left Greeley after 7.5 years, and we did a lot of work in a short amount of time there, the superintendent called me, and the day that they had interviewed, and said, this was her words, who leaves behind 2 equally qualified people to run the department? And I said, you're welcome. So to me, that was a proud moment that, if I've left a job and the place falls apart, I didn't do my job. I've just been taught and observed from others that, you do your jobs in a manner that you're training up other people that you could step away and they're not going to miss you. And it's going to be even better, because they've learned and they can continue on the work. And so in Greeley, they still have a central kitchen. They're still producing great food. And so to me, that's a proud moment.
That's beautiful.
I've been married for 30 years. I think that's something to be proud of.
And just a side note, anyone that's listening that's ever in Springfield, Colorado, his incredible wife just opened up a coffee shop. What is the name of your wife's coffee shop?
It's called Baca Brew, because we live in Baca County. Now, if you hear it on the news, they'll call it Baca County, which is probably correct, but nobody down here calls it Baca. So Baca
Brew. If you're driving on your way to Oklahoma and want to stop by Springfield, see Jeremy at his wife's, the West's coffee shop. And shout out to Colette for, being married to this guy for 30 years.
Bless her heart. And Mason, my son, the barista, is doing an excellent job. The oldest daughter is she's in Long Island. I flew her out there, and she's going to get a PhD in neuroscience. So that's a proud day too. So
you got great kids.
All of them are doing great work. So
it's reflective with you and Colette. All right, Jeremy. So one more question. And I love this question because the USFA, the company and the organization, actually not company, that you're so involved in, just partnered with the Culinary Institute, CIA, and Healthy Kids Collaborative. And partnerships and teamwork and partnerships is when I feel like miracles happen and things get done. And so just kind of talk to me a little bit about, your partnership, the USFA with that. And, I feel like over COVID here in K-12, we partnered with some local restaurants who helped us feed kids. And so partnerships are huge to service. So go ahead.
They are. Yeah, that's so well said. And, I think we've seen that really play out in districts too, where there have been even silos within a district, like even between transportation and food service. And now, hey, we need your bus drivers to come deliver to these neighborhoods. And that's really built those relationships. And that's really, that's part of being a success as an organization or a person, is really having those connections and those relationships with others that have different disciplines than you and do different work than you. What I'm excited about with the Culinary Institute, and of course, we're still looking for funding, right? You got to have funding for these things. We're a nonprofit. So is really, we know that if school districts want to cook more foods from scratch or speed scratch or offer more fresh foods, there's some hurdles to get there, right? There's
training,
facilities. There's schools built with, they call it a kitchen, but it's more suited to a janitor's closet. So there's a need for equipment. There's sometimes a need for electricity, but there's also a need for training, for culinary training. And who better, what we thought is who better than the Culinary Institute of America to help do that. And so we are seeking, to really host some really train the trainer concepts across the nation, get into all the regions, to really have a system in place that can expand the culinary skill set of our frontline staff. And I think they want it. That was my experience in Greeley. Is that while it's a little intimidating at first to come into with people in coat coats, they loved it by the end of it. And they felt empowered with the knowledge that they could do that. And so we think that that's, if we're really going to get serious, Shannon, about reducing sugar, reducing sodium, that stuff's not easy, right? It's not easy to do that work.
And still have a delicious product, right?
Right, exactly.
Yep.
But through culinary skill set and culinary knowledge, we can get there. I know we can. So that's my background is my entrance into food service was culinary arts. And so there's techniques with cooking and with spices that can help us get closer to that. But we also have to continue to put, sound the alarm that we've got to continue to have equipment grants and invest in infrastructure that's needed for K-12 and invest in a more realistic reimbursement rate that can help pay for some of this stuff so that we can offer the best food possible in an equitable way because people have the access to the equipment and skill set that they need.
Perfect. I love partnerships. I think that's super exciting that you guys are doing that. All right, Jeremy. Well, Jason Wange loves to end his Monday nights with, I reached out to some people and asked them to just send a few words about you. So I'm going to read those.
Ooh,
I'm
okay.
going to start with, I've worked with Jeremy for over 15 years now and been there to watch him grow into an impressive leader. I still am delighted each time he walks into the room and flashes his big, sweet smile. Jeremy is a humble leader with a heart of gold and never forgets to treat everyone like they are the most important person in the room. He has a beautiful family, and they are his first priority always. I can't say enough about his effectiveness as a team builder and leader. Besides humble and effective, other words that come to mind when describing Jeremy, the Jeremy West, are sincere, thoughtful, generous, and extremely smart. I look forward to many more projects and partnerships with Jeremy. Nancy Byrne.
Oh, bless her. She's a great one herself.
I'm going to save this one just a moment.
Thank you, Nancy Byrne.
All right. Here we go. Throughout Jeremy's career in school nutrition, it has been a pleasure to work with him. Jeremy is a great source of information and ideas. Working together for the Urban School Food Alliance has been a unique opportunity to positively impact school nutrition with our small but mighty team. Watching Jeremy quickly achieve not one, but 2 college degrees while working full-time and supporting his wonderful family is a joy. Jill Kidd.
Yeah, she's great. I'm telling you, I work with 2 of the best in the industry, so I just learn from them every time I'm with them. So,
all right. So this is another one. The students of Colorado are blessed to have his warm-hearted and hardworking advocacy in Jeremy West. His passion is admirable, and he never hesitates to volunteer his time and energy for child nutrition. Stay diligent and keep those students engaged in a healthy nutrition. And that is from Rich Wood, Integrated Foods.
Wow, thank you, Rich. It's a good man.
All right. A few words on Jeremy is rather like trying to describe the origin of the universe in under 10 words. Jeremy is one of the most caring and compassionate people I've had the pleasure of not only knowing, but working with. He is a true visionary. He looks beyond what things are today so that they can be what they are tomorrow. His visionary style is matched by his boundless energy to support K-12, industry, and his community. Jeremy is 1 in a million person who truly makes this a better place to be. Monica Dines Henderson.
Oh, thanks, Monica. She's great. She's one of the first people I met in school food, so appreciate her.
All right, from the Kara Sample.
Uh-oh, now we better cut this thing short here. She knows too much about me.
Saying that I'm lucky and honored to have Jeremy in my life doesn't even cut the mustard. The feeling of gratitude is so much more than that. Jeremy is the type of person that inspires you, makes you laugh, and exudes care and kindness like no other person can. I like to refer to myself as the little sister Jeremy never wanted.
Exactly.
And I'm proud to call Jeremy my big brother. Jeremy, I'm so blessed to have you in my life, and I will be forever grateful for your friendship and support.
Thank you, Kara. I told her that one day. I said, "You're like the little sister I never wanted." And she's like, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "Well, what little boy wants a little sister? Ain't no boy want a little sister."
That is hilarious. Okay, so I have this last one, and I'm going to try because he wrote something humorous as well. So, dear Cletus, what you've been recognized for now? Something done good, I imagine, because that's what you want to do. You're a good moon who does things because God loves you people. Ha, you're a role model for me. I want to be like you when I grow up. Really, I do. I love you, man. Your cousin, Ricky Bobby. But in all seriousness and bromance aside, and you have made me and continue to make me a better human being. And you make the world a better place. You are an Energizer Buddy, Santa, Captain America, Mother Teresa, and Superman all combined into one amazing person. I marvel at your accomplishments in all areas of your life. While we accomplish many amazing things together, both in and out of School District 11, I am now the grasshopper and you are the teacher. An amazing teacher, a humble teacher, a great friend, a brother in Christ. I love and appreciate you more than you will ever know.
Thank you for that, Jan. Thank you, Ricky.
Yeah, you know who that is. And Jeremy, you know, I didn't write anything, but I will tell you that those words that people shared, and there could have been so many more today. You are first of all, David Maxwell. Shout out to David Maxwell. This has been great. Go K-12 and SNA.
Yeah.
Yes. I will say, Jeremy, you know, I started this with you influence, you empower, and you achieve. You walk the talk, my friend, and you have challenged me on the days where it was hard to do the same. So thank you. And to the power plants out there, Jeremy, do you want to say anything to kind of wrap us up tonight?
Well, just thank you. Thanks for your kind words. I appreciate that. But thanks to each of you in the industry, because I've met a lot of you on all sides of it, and I've worked on about all sides of it now, and it really takes all of us pulling together because it's not easy work, and you know it's changing a lot right now. But I just want to say thank you for your dedication. Those that are in industry that are still selling to schools and working with schools and seeing that as a great place to spend their time. Thank you. We appreciate it. And you operators that are out there in K-12 that are, you know, ready to start a new school year with still uncertainty. Once again, you got this, and your kids need you. Your community needs you. And so on those days that it's really tough, when you don't think you can do another step, or your staff feels that way, you know, go find a student and look at what they're accomplishing. Go look at the artwork in an elementary school. That's what I used to do, because if you need some encouragement, that's a great place to find it. And just understand that this is bigger than us, that we're here at this point in time to carry the torch, and that we're helping the next generation until they can come and get the torch from us and keep it going.
100% agree with you, my friend. And, you know, the food service power plant and also the K-12 power plant is a place that people can reach out, and you're not alone. And the service industry, because you're serving people and you're serving diverse and incredible humans, it's not always easy to be in the service industry. And so for restaurant people, for food service people, you are not alone. And please know that the Food Service Power Plant Network and the K-12 Power Plant Network are here to let you know you are not alone. Reach out to any of us, reach out to Jeremy West, the Jeremy West. And I'm here as well. And Jason Wange, thank you so much for this platform. Thank you, for all you do for food service and for service industry folks, because it is a cause that we all have. So everybody, you are valued, you are loved, you are appreciated. Jeremy, thank you for giving me an hour of your time tonight. I know how precious it is.
Thank you, Shannon. I know it's a busy day and a busy week for you, so I appreciate you guest hosting too.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Jason will be back in a week or two.